Welcome back, Miss Cheryl Lewis. How are you?
Oh, I'm so great. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I feel like I'm like a before and after. Like I feel like without you I'd probably still be crying in the corner, but now I'm like the absolute report card for like, hey, guess what? This can be done. This works, right?
Well, and I'm so glad we're doing a part two because if anyone hasn't had a chance to yet, you need to go back to listen to part one, which we didn't know was a part one at a time, but Cheryl's first interview on the podcast. You can go back and find it where it was just kind of talking about, what you had dealt with as far as burnout and stuff like that, what you were going through at the time, how you'd come out on the other side of it. But, today's episode was kind of sparked from the idea of we were talking. It's now you're like on like a Geez, we started working together in November, I think, of last year, about that October maybe.
I think
So, like,
so.
it's coming up on 10 months, almost a year, which is wild how fast time is going. But, like, you and I have been through some things in this past ten months, which we've witnessed within each other. And I think one thing that hits home for both of us is we're both women who have been so career driven for so
Mm,
long, and we still have that within us. We're,
mhm.
starting new things and doing new things and exploring it in a different way, but we've both, especially this last season and maybe in different regards, have kind of come to this point where it's like really figuring out career versus personal, or just how
Mhm.
the two truly coexist and what that's
Mhm.
like. So, like, my first question to you is, this is your first summer where you've like
Mhm.
been a free bird. Like, what's that been like? What have you been doing? What's been going on?
Totally. Yeah, it feels weird saying that. And maybe I could say just to start off that if we would have been talking even the first time we talked about it and we would have had this conversation, but if we would have rewound back to the very beginning, when you would have said that, like, what does it feel like to be off for the summer? I would have been embarrassed, right? Like, my natural inclination would
Mm.
have been like, oh, like a shame, right? Like, oh my gosh, what do you mean you're off for the summer, right? Like, what do you mean you're choosing to be off for the summer, sort of a thing? And so I just needed to highlight that because in that moment, I'm going, that would have been a triggering moment months and
Wow.
months ago because that would have come personally as a sense of shame because to
Right.
me my entire identity my whole personality was around my corporate personality, like my persona, who I was, my career, and what I had achieved. It was not about me. And so I can say for the first time in a long time, and I think you and I chatted about this not on the record, but I'm happy to share it, having these small micro moments of actual joy, happiness, experiencing things not because you're trying to have fun or you're going out of your way to create something, but just being present, not feeling like you're coming back to this, insane workload or that you've left something and you're constantly thinking about what's going to happen next. Um, so I would say it's been peaceful and it's been fun. It's been fun. I've had fun. And y- y- that's not something that as an adult female for a long time I could say this is a fun experience or something like that, but to actually feel it resonate from like inside and to say I'm just having this moment, whether it be sitting at the beach, whether it be traveling, whether it be just hanging out outside and getting some sun, you feel joy. And I think that that's how I would say this feels so different, right?
Like that, I've been having that conversation so much lately with different people, and like, yeah, as an adult, like, fun isn't on like our top list of goals. You know what I mean? It's like, I
Right.
want to become this position, I want to make this amount of money, I want to accomplish this and this, and like fun is nowhere in there ever typically.
Mm.
We think about vacations maybe, but we don't even think about vacations in the sense of fun. We think about vacations in the sense of recovery. You know what I mean? That's
Mhm,
literally what it is.
mhm.
And then so then when you but then when you get to this point and you think like, I don't remember the last time I laughed, full belly laughed. I don't remember the
Mhm.
last time I was like able to like just be on vacation and not have a plan and just go with the flow. I don't remember the last time I could sit and have a coffee and not think about what I had to do that day. Like
Mhm.
we take it for granted and you forget about how like refueling it is, you know what I mean? And how
Mhm.
easy it is to get stuck in that prison, honestly. It sounds dramatic, of just being caught up in the rat race, you know? And like I
100%.
have a client specifically right now who is debating taking a year sabbatical.
Mm.
And he is fine for, as far as like financially and every aspect of the work. He can take this time off, but he's looking at it from the standpoint
Mm.
of like, will I set myself back if I take this year off? Will I'm
Mm.
in a really good position. Should I do it? You know, all these things that weighed on us. And I told him, I was like, first off, I was like, what a rare opportunity as an adult to be able to do that. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like most, if we're talking about rarity, it's more rare
Mhm.
that you can actually even be able to do it. And then the second part of it is like I told them, I was like, I had taken a full year off after my first career, and I don't even it's a blip now in my memory. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
you wanna appreciate the moment, but we think it's such a big deal when it's really it's like eventually you just end up doing something else and it just passes, you know?
Absolutely. And I'll be honest with you, like I don't think that there's any capacity where people who are in that space, when you are in that workload, you're in the burnout, maybe you're not even burnt out, but you're just, you're getting there, or you've been in that corporate climb for as long as some of your clients have, and just people in general. I don't even think people understand what rest feels like anymore. So we go on
Mm,
vacation, but it's like rest is so different for everybody, but the reality is like rest has to be grounded in true quiet, stillness, peacefulness, to just let yourself sort of be okay with yourself, as opposed to rest outside by a pool. Sure, that's rest, but all of the other things that are still going through your brain when you're resting by the pool, right? Oh, I've got to go get drinks. I have to get downstairs to make sure that I get a seat before everybody else gets a seat. What happens if it's going to be too sunny in that seat? Do I need an umbrella? I want to make sure that that's not rest, right? Like, I mean, sure, it's great, it's fun once you get there, but like that whole, and this is part of what, you've taught me, is that whole thing where it's like this build up to it. Your body has to come down, right? And so even though it's just a vacation or it's just time away, the true concept of rest, I think everybody's just faking it. Sorry, like I
mm.
just think that most people, anyways, are just saying they're getting it or they're faking it. But I don't know that people really have paused and understood what that means, right?
1,000%. And it can go back to something as simple as like, when everyone starts with me, I ask them how their sleep is. Tell me what's your
Yeah.
sleep like. And I always say there's two groups. There's a very obvious group that goes, it sucks. Like I'm up every night
Hmm.
at 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm up for 3 hours. I go back to sleep for an hour, wake up. And then
Yeah.
there's the group that's like, oh no, I sleep fine. And it's like as soon as I lay down, I pass out and then I wake up and it's fine. But they never wake up rested. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
kind of the same concept, right? Like when we're talking about vacation, it's like if you're doing all these things and then okay, maybe you feel fine on vacation, but then when you get home and the whole same setup sets back in, the same burnout, the same exhaustion, the same overthinking and short fuse, all that sets back in. It's like, well, then you actually didn't rest. Right.
Right.
And rest can't happen in periods over like a year. Like, oh, i
Yeah.
get i got 2 weeks of rest this year, cool. Like it's not
Hmm.
sustainable and it's actually not doing anything for the body. It's actually just catching up. It's not actually resting.
You find I'm finding like I giggle at it now as a parent, and I know you're not a parent yet, but like at some point, but I always giggle at, you're seeing social media, or even when you're out vacationing or traveling on your own, and you watch people who they look like they're having the most horrific time. They've got their kids are arguing, they're melting down. Disneyland is not the happiest place on earth. I've been there, I've watched it. I don't know that I agree, but you think about that concept of saying like what you're taking into that time and how you're handling that time, and then you're going to have those same experiences, or you're going to be supercharged the whole time that you're gone. And then you come home and it's like all of those social media posts of just saying like, all we didn't have a vacation. We just dealt with our family. We spent a lot of money and we went somewhere else and did it in a different setting. And I'm thinking,
Mhm.
oh, I did that for so long, like where you were just taking your work computer, you were navigating the relationships that you were having in those moments. But that's that's insane. It's insane to think that we've made that the norm, that that becomes the default normal behavior for people to just go spend a lot of money to go do the same things.
Mhm, mhm. That's why it's like it always annoys me, like, when I was in Bali and there'd be people still going to, like, Starbucks and McDonald's because they opened them over, I'm like, you came all this way to eat at McDonald's and to go to Starbucks in Bali? Like, really?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
there's a lot of deeper issues there too, but, like, you know what I mean? But people are such a creature of habit, and
It's
they
true.
want the nervous system wants what's comfortable, you know what I mean? So subconsciously, you just make decisions that don't take a lot of effort because it's what
Mm,
you know?
yeah.
So, like so I'm curious from your standpoint then,
Mm,
like, and you already talked about it, like, so now so you've had this choice to be off for the summer and you've
sure.
been enjoying it, like, what has that been like from, like, making sense of it for you as someone
Mm,
who's been so career driven and ambitious and has succeeded at everything she's done, and even just like back to your point of like before you would have felt some shame, like
mhm,
reflecting on it, like what has this period of like
mm.
I almost want to say like prioritizing your personal or yourself over everything else, even though I like your work is a part of
Sure.
you, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
really diving in and making this the project, like enjoying
Mm.
this time instead. Like what's that been like for you?
It's a good question because I would say, I think the first thing I should say is even completing the program and knowing how much it's changed me and my life, and taken me to a place that I never saw myself being before from a mental health perspective. There's still micro moments. Like it doesn't go away. It's not as though
Mhm.
you ever sit like I always have small little moments of self-doubt. Am I doing the right thing? Or guilt, maybe about saying like, oh, well, what if? What if? Anxiousness, well, what does that mean for what's next? What happens if things don't? But I think with my experiences, I've seen what happens when you just are, right? When you just are, you know that the next steps are going to come to you. So I think I want to be honest and say there's sometimes where those things do, those micro moments, come in and you feel like, oh, shoot, this is, you know, but that's the education that will continue, that I will have to continue to do. Like I will always have those moments and I will always have to push those away. What I feel though is that there's a distinct, and I'm watching it. I watch it in family members, I watch it in peers, I watch it in colleagues, I watch it in, there's a whole bunch of things, but people a lot of people don't really want to change. A lot of people really
Mhm.
say they want to change because that helps pacify their own mind, or it makes them feel like that they're saying the right thing. But the reality is making those changes and starting to prioritize yourself, like being able to be off in the summer and choosing to feel okay with this and to and knowing that this is great for you, that's a choice. And it's a choice that you have to be okay to A, make, and B, maintain. Because if you don't, you're just pretending that change is what you're really looking for, and you're not really ready to do the hard work. Those guilty moments remind me that I'm doing it for the right reasons. It
Mhm.
helps me at my core know that this was the right thing for me, right?
It's so true. Do you know how many like calls I'll get on with like assessment calls, like people who are meeting me for the first time, like a
Hmm.
consultation? And I've had people sit there crying,
Hmm.
knowing that they're stuck and their relationships are suffering and they feel trapped at their job and they have no end and they still will find a reason or a story in their head as to why they can't get started and why
Yeah.
they're just going to keep living it out and live with it. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
to me it's baffling You know what I mean? Like, and there's no judgment, like, I get it, like, sometimes
Yeah.
we have to kinda get to a point where the pain's almost so bad that you wanna do something about it, you know what I mean? But then at the same token, it's like, well, if you don't want it for yourself, I can't want it for you more.
So how do you, as in your role, how do you tell the difference? So how do you know when you're talking to your clients that they're actually changing versus they're just not getting better at talking about changing, maybe?
Okay, wait, so are you asking from someone, like, who's already working with me or someone who's new? Like, what do you mean?
Well, I think, I mean, it could be both, right? Like, I mean, I think, your program is different than any program that I've ever participated in. So I understand that there's nuances there. But I think when, again, it goes back to the concept of a lot of people, it makes them uncomfortable. And so are they doing the work really, or are they coming back? So I'm assuming that there would be stages during your conversations with people where you can tell whether or not they're really putting in that extra effort or they're really sort of working towards making those changes versus just saying, yeah, I did it, or I'm feeling fine, or whatever for the time that. Now, it doesn't make sense to me why somebody, as somebody who's on the other side, why they would do that because they're doing themselves a disservice. They've made the investment in themselves. But I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of people would still find themselves in that situation. And maybe once you've gotten to that point, you do a better job at sort of like filtering out the people who really are ready. But have you seen that before in your own experiences?
Yeah, to me, I think the biggest telltale sign that someone really wants to do it is how, like, raw and messy they're willing to get with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, when we're having conversations, I was queen wear a mask. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like as far as like the corporate mask that I always
Sure.
have it together. Like that was me for the majority of my life. So I'm pretty good at seeing when someone's doing that, and I know they're not doing it to try and be like fake. They're doing it
Mm-hmm.
because it's their protection mechanism, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when I'm working with someone and they can start to just let all the mess out, like not feel as polished in their answers, have a cry. I always say like one of the checkpoints on my program is when someone finally sheds a tear. I'm like, oh, whew,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I know where we're at
Yeah.
now. You know what I mean? Because it shows that they're getting underneath there. But like it always comes back to that big V word that people don't love is which is vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And the more willing someone is to be vulnerable with me, I'm like, "Oh, they're gonna get a lot out of this." Like, I can already
Mm-hmm.
tell the transformation that's going to happen because I can see the depth to which they're willing to go, And, like, I'll be honest, I haven't had in all my clients, everyone's been pretty willing to go there with me. I haven't really
Mm.
had anyone who hasn't, and I also think though that on the initial call with people, I that kind of gets filtered out a little bit. Not saying I
Right.
won't I'm not what am I saying? Like I try to ask questions in a way where I can tell if someone's ready to hear the truth because my
Gotcha.
job is not to coddle you. My job is not to make you more comfortable in the place that you're in. My job is to like bridge the gap of what's very obviously broken right now. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what the initial consults are for is to like not only for them to feel me out but for me to also see like is this someone who's ready for the work and sometimes they seem very ready but then human
Mm.
nature is they start to think of every reason why they can't do it, and especially with high performers, our thing is we think we can figure it out ourselves
Right.
always, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
always. And can you like yeah, you probably can. I got myself out of burnout, took me like 4 years. You know what I mean, of like of dedicated hard like, I was trying every modality under the sun. I was seeing every practitioner, like, I was committed, and it still took me that long to get myself out. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So, can you do it? Yeah, but then it's like, you don't need to have to waste the same time and energy I did when there's a path laid out for you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think of like, again, you had alluded to at the beginning, I think it's been 10 months since we've been working together. And I'm thinking it's, I can't believe the different that I feel in myself in 10 months. Like it's unfathomable for me. And so I think how long would it have taken me to A, come to a realization, but then B, to figure it out, to get out of it myself? Could I even have done it? I didn't even know what it meant, right? You think that
Right.
everybody uses that word, but I know for me, like, and I can say I was going to ask you when you had that aha moment for me as a client, but I think I know what my aha moment was, where we were sitting together and we were having one of our sessions, and it was like this, like, I'm like, it's now or never. It's like this is do or die. Like, if I'm not all in right at this moment, this is not going to be what I need it to be. And it was like jumping in the and hoping the pool was deep enough. But I don't know. I was gonna say, did you have that moment like where you watch it, whether it was with me or other clients, where you kind of go like, oh, this is it, right?
Oh yeah, your moment was the Christmas vacation.
I knew you were gonna say that was my moment. Yeah, that was
Hands
100% my
down.
moment.
Cheryl's Christmas vacation, that was it. Like, and for, I guess, to summarize it for context, everybody, Cheryl had a choice to take a vacation during Christmas or, spend it with her family. And she
Mhm.
felt like she needed to go away. I don't know if you want to explain that any differently.
Yeah.
Right.
It was
But
just, yeah, it was like the idea, the concept of, we were always sort of family homebodies, but, the opportunity presented itself. It was perfect timing in terms of the circumstances all sort of aligned. And I was like, oh, I would really love to go. And I knew in my core it was what I wanted to do. But I was so afraid to hurt anybody else's feelings or to make them feel like I was choosing um, that over them. And it was like having this reflective moment of going, but it's what I want to do. Like, but I know I want to do this. So why am I talking myself out of this? But it was the first time that I had made a very uncomfortable decision since we started working together that truly prioritized my wants and needs over somebody else's. And
Mhm.
it was gut wrenching, raw, emotional, right? We talked about it. It hurts. It still hurts. It's not that doesn't go away. But I'm so thankful I did it because the world didn't end. Nothing
Mhm.
happened.
Mhm.
Nobody hated me. We might have had discomfort, but at the end of the day, you work through that. It's going to
Mhm.
be what it is. But I'm so thankful that I did it. That's why I'm like, you must get such a kick out of seeing those moments, though, where things just go, that's it. They're there, they're breaking through. And just that I know they were going to get here, right?
Well, and that's such a great example and moment because that's a situation that's not like it's not a massive decision per se, right? Like it's
Mhm.
something relatively like small on the spectrum of
Sure.
decisions, you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, okay, it's not like I'm quitting my job or I'm leaving my relationship. It's like, oh, I want to go on vacation during Christmas, right?
Yeah.
But it holds so many lessons in it because I remember there was a ton of guilt. You like
Hmm.
before, like it was like that day. I remember we had a session and you're like,
Yeah.
I already know what flights are. And like you're like, but you were so consumed with this guilt and you're scared to talk to your family about it. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And so there's very real, like you said, uncomfortable
Hmm.
and painful things that were coming up. But instead of giving into the patterns of what you were feeling in that moment, the discomfort and the guilt, you chose to do it, right? You
Mm.
just were like, I'm just gonna work through the discomfort and see what happens. And I remember when you got back, I was like, how was it? You're like, it was so fun. We were out in the streets, we were dancing with the people. Like I just remember
Yeah.
that was like the first moments of joy you had started to experience on
Yeah.
this journey
Hmm.
because you chose to work through the discomfort. And like it just goes to show about like again back to the whole change thing. People
Hmm.
don't wanna change because they get stuck in that initial phase. The guilt, the
Hmm.
fear, "Oh, it's just a vacation, it's just Christmas, whatever, I'll stay there." But look at what happened on the other side of it. It literally was the catalyst to where you are now, where you're like, "I'm not gonna work for the summer, and I'm gonna have a
Yeah.
damn good time doing it." Right?
Yeah, yeah, and I don't want to feel guilty, and it's okay. It's okay, right? Like, it's a choice. It's okay. Nothing's going to happen. I've thought it through. I knew what it entailed when I made the decision. It came from an educated place. It wasn't just this, a ridiculous come out of the, and I mean, those can be great too, don't get me wrong, but I mean, there's heaviness that is associated with deciding to take time off from work, and there's a lot of different elements, but I don't know. I always think about, if my old self could sit here and be having this podcast with us, she'd be rolling her eyes, right? I mean, truthfully, she'd be rolling her eyes at both of us and being like, "Oh my gosh, look at these two," like just, believing that this can really happen. But it's amazing to know that you just have to trust that, like, when you know yourself and when you get to know yourself again, you're not gonna steer yourself wrong, right?
Mm,
But learning to
that
trust yourself again is huge.
that that is that is the game, right? it
Yeah.
it all comes down to self trust, because when we're at that point of like, we're talking about burnout, but really what that is just being disconnected from yourself, right?
Hmm.
You're so scared to make the wrong decision because you don't
Hmm.
have the capacity or the fuel to deal with if
Hmm.
there's a fallout, if something goes
Right.
quote unquote wrong. So you're thinking, what's the best decision I can make, regardless of my happiness, regardless of what I want, but that will just keep things intact because you're in survival mode. All I
Correct.
just need to survive the day because I don't have the capacity to deal with it. Anything goes wrong. So I'm going to make decisions just to keep me dialed into what this is, even if it's what I don't want, even if
Hmm.
it doesn't bring me any happiness or any joy. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so then but then all your decisions come from that place, and guess what, that just brings you further away from yourself, right? Where
Totally.
it's like when you go through that journey of again learning to trust yourself again, learning
Hmm.
to know that you have the capacity to deal with whatever comes up, life becomes a lot more free,
Hmm.
right?
A
and
100%.
and the things that you once used to make these decisions all of a sudden don't feel so heavy. And now you're making decisions from a place of like, genuinely, this is my life. What do I want? What do I want to create? And you actually have like the belief and the faith that, like, hey, I can actually do this. I can actually make it work. And not from a place of desperation, but from a place of empowerment.
Absolutely. You think about the concept, and I keep I spin my brain over this all the time now, because now that I'm sitting on this side of the fence and I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking about all of the unspoken things that can contribute to, it's the things that don't get seen that can contribute to this oftentimes, whether that be through workplace or through home. And it's things that we don't see, that we don't identify with, or we don't. And I was the queen of "it's okay, I've got it." Like, literally, I was like, "It's okay, I've got it." Why? Because it was like, it was easiest. It was survival mode. It was like 100% let me handle it, because, and even though I knew I couldn't, or things were over the top, it was the way I would handle a situation. It was a default. And that's scary, because it's okay, I'll handle it. And everybody was like, "She's got it." Right. I mean, it was great that, and I did. Right. But at what cost? And I think that's the bottom line, is the cost was, at the end of the day, me. And
Mhm,
I was sacrificing me for everybody else's, um, I guess, comfort. Right.
mhm, mhm. Well, and that's what push through and hustle and um like, I'll just figure it out. That's what it does to you in the long term, right?
Hmm.
Like survival mode can get you places. Of course it can, right? But
Sure.
at the expense of yourself, right?
Hmm.
Which is not sustainable long term. And so and that means it might be physical, right? Physical health, your body's starting to break
Sure.
down, you're gaining weight, you're losing
Hmm.
weight, you're not mentally clear. But then that also comes in the sense of like, now you can't be present for your kids or your spouse. Now
Right.
you don't even want to see your friends. So now your connections and that's starting to break down. And then your mental health and your emotional health and all these things, like it's all at the expense of you when that's your strategy for pushing through.
Well, I used to think that, like, the concept was, oh, I was working too much, which was true, don't get me wrong. But it wasn't just that I was working too much. I was worried about everybody else's work too, right? Because
Mm,
you're constantly worried about, is everything else getting, so it's like you're not just focused on you. And I don't know if that's an everybody thing, or if it's a high performer thing, if it's a human thing. I don't know that it's gender specific, but at the end of the day, for me, it was the realization that I was not just worried about me, I'm worried about everything that, and this specifically things that were outside of my control, right? And so, knowing what I know now, and the concept of like pushing that out onto people, or knowing that I was the receiver of a lot of that, where I took it on when I A, didn't have to, but B, you get a lot of that stuff pushed when you are a high performer because people can rely on you. So they
Mhm.
say, oh, she's going to do it. She's going to handle it. And it's not until you get to that final endpoint, it's too late, right? Because it's the strong, silent ones typically who are going to continue to take that on and take that on and take that on until they break. And that's the unfortunate reality of what we see. It's just looking back and going, learnings on how it impacts how I worked or how I received, and what would I do differently at home? What would I do differently at work? I mean, from a workplace perspective, the idea of delegation now seems a bit crazy to me. You should be delegating, of course, but we delegate to those that we trust. We delegate to those strong, silent who aren't going to tell us that they're at a breaking point, right? As a leader, we need to see the things that we're not seeing, and we need to actively work on redistributing them across teams as opposed to just delegating to those that we trust. But those lessons come after a lot of reflection on my own well-being and realizing how much was actually contributing to that burnout as a whole, right?
I always say, like, if you are a leader, if and that can be of a family, of a corporation, you
Hmm.
cannot afford to not know how your nervous system works. Like, you
Hmm.
can't, right? And what
Hmm.
that means is, just as you said, you need to know the own inner workings of your stress and what you can handle and what you can say yes and what you can say no and where your capacity's at. You have to understand that within yourself first for you to be able to read that off your team, right?
Sure.
Because there are many times where you will push a high performer, who's a star, to the
Hmm.
breaking point, and they're going to get up and quit, and you're going to not even know what hit them,
Right.
right?
100%. Yeah.
You're going to be like, where did this come from? Like, I would say that that happened in my last career, if I'm being honest. Now, I was ready
Hmm.
to leave regardless. I didn't leave strictly because of burnout. There's a lot of other things out of alignment, but did it hit them in the face and were they shocked? Yeah, because I was
Hmm.
just silently making shit happen for years and years and years. And all of a sudden,
Sure.
I was like, oh, no, I'm actually done now. Right.
Yeah.
And then they're scrambling to try and to save it. And now, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want that? And it's like, well, no, because that's not sustainable for you guys. And it clearly wasn't the culture of the place anyway. So it doesn't matter, you know?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And it does make a big difference. But again, it's often far too late by the time it gets figured out by leaders and by, team members or people, direct reports, because they don't see it until they're falling on the floor, right? Or they think that they're okay. And I think, I said earlier, like the idea of romanticizing being busy, or the idea that we've now considered, when somebody asks you, how are you? And the default answer is, oh, it's busy. Like, now it hurts when I hear somebody say that, because I know what that means. It means that,
Mm,
like, you're making yourself busy because
mhm.
that's what you believe brings you value, whether that's at home or whether that's, like, we have taken this and we've normalized it. We've made it like that hustle culture. It's like you have to hustle, and if you're not hustling doesn't mean killing yourself day and night and working 24 hours a day. Maybe that is what gives you joy. And if that's what brings you joy, then that's amazing. But if you can't sustain it, or you're doing it because you feel like it's what you should be doing, or that's what people tell you you should be doing, you're on a scary and dangerous road to being, burnt out in a way that is going to take a long time to put those pieces back together, right?
100%. And it goes back to, like, first of all, I would bet a large amount of money that most people actually don't get joy from that. I think the
Sure.
people that who justify to themselves that it's joyful are the people who love the chase and the thrill of winning. I love that
Hmm.
too. But that winning is a sense of validation of their self-worth.
Hmm.
It's not
Yeah.
actually just like, maybe there's a small percentage, but it's a small percentage of people who
Hmm.
actually can go to that level. Because I'm even listening to some of these big business guys right now who are big founders and giving all this knowledge to people, and they're also having the same epiphanies. Like, like, how are my relationships doing? Is this actually sustainable?
Hmm.
My health is breaking down. Like, it's showing up in so many different ways, and you're
Hmm.
right. It's this romanticizing of this hustle and this grit and this tenacity, which you do need. You know what I mean? Like, those
Sure.
are things, but it can't be all or nothing. Like, it and like You know what I romanticize now? I romanticize people who are like calm and regulated and
Mm.
balanced. And I'm like, oh, wow, this person actually is like present in their body. I'm like, what are they doing? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I used to like, not worship, that's not the right word, but like just be like, oh, I gotta be like them. I gotta keep going. Gotta keep going. And now I'm like, okay, I can take a couple tidbits from them, but like, I
Mm.
don't want that life. I don't
Hmm.
want that, and I'm so okay saying it. You know.
Yeah, but that was so like this is why I was saying to you, like I can't when we met, it was we were both in different spaces, obviously. My quest for peace came probably at the expense of some other people's discomfort. That's just the reality of it. As I was learning, you do make other people uncomfortable in that ability to be able to feel okay with the choices that you're making, being 100% comfortable with yourself. You were already there and building, your next place, and then your personal life starts to change and things start to shift. And so would you have had that same answer even when we met 10 months ago, or when we met, or when you started this company however long ago, right? Like it takes something in you to feel like that's just actually true, right?
100%. And like, you're right. Like my personal life has taken such a shift in the last, yeah, 10 months, whatever it's 8 months, whatever it's been. Um, and it's actually really forced me to practice what I preach. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Because if it was still like before my relationship, it was still just me in the business. I think I very much committed myself to not burning out building this business and
Yeah.
making sure I stay balanced. Like that has been at the forefront for sure. I'm like, I don't want to burn out doing this. So I know I've had to adjust my strategies, but it still would have been just Mintu in the business, right? Like this
Hmm.
is my primary focus. And now I have this incredible partner in my life, and we're building this new life together. I've really had to check myself
Mm.
on being super intentional with my time, because before it would be really easy to make everything about business, but relationships take effort as well too. They
Right.
take time and energy and intention, and so it's like, as much as we both understand we have big goals, career wise for each other, it's also been making sure that I put just as much effort and intention and what's the right word? Like, I want to build that relationship as strongly as
Mm.
I'm building my business, and that's
Right.
been something really different for me because I've never had to put that much focus on myself, let alone
Hmm.
like now someone else in the life we're building together.
Hmm. Yeah, it's different, right? It's different. You're looking at it in a completely different perspective. I feel like I'm turning the tables on you a little bit on your own podcast because I'm like, oh my God, I have so many questions for you now that I feel like I'm on this side of the fence. Um, but like, so then what's the piece of advice that you are like always giving, but it's the hardest for you to follow, like knowing that you're now in this sort of pivotal shift at home too?
Oh my god. There's so
Oh, I
many.
don't know. I'm like, wait, where do we start? Yeah,
No.
exactly.
So the thing I have to actually, it's actually Thomas that reminds me of this the most. I know it, but
Mm.
he reinforces it. He vocalizes it for me, which is really good. And he said it to me just a couple weeks ago. He's like, what did he say? He's like, it's okay if you don't work every moment of the day. Right? He's like,
Mm.
it's still a good day even if you didn't exhaust every option of working today. He's like, that, right? And I was like,
Mm.
I do now. I just said it. But I can still very much fall into a day where it's like, okay, maybe all my stuff is done by like, let's say 2 o'clock. And then I'm like, okay,
Sure.
what can I fill the next few hours with? You know what I mean? Like I should fill it because
Totally.
I can at least work till 5 or 6 at the very least. Like I
Yeah.
can fill it with something. And then he can see me start to scramble a little bit. And like, I'm like, maybe
Mm.
I should do this. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should do this. He's like, it's okay if you just like stop for the day, right? Like
Yeah.
it's actually okay. So like, as much as I'm telling people that all the time, it can happen very naturally. And I think why it happens naturally for me is because I'm not burnt out, right?
Hmm.
So because I have capacity now, it's like, well, then I
Sure.
should keep filling it, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean I have to just
Hmm.
because it's there. Like I can just be with what is in the moment, right? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Totally. It's like you're almost punishing yourself for your own efficiencies, right? Like it's like you're
Yeah.
doing, yeah, you're like your block is this big, but you're getting all of the work you need to do in this much time. And so you're like, but wait a second, I need to be doing more. So it's like it is that sort of guilt, I guess, or that sort of the voice in the back of your head that makes you go, wait a second, do more, right? Do more. When you really should feel fantastic that you've completed everything you've needed to do in such an efficient amount of time.
Well, and that's just it. Like, what are you going to look at? The fact that, wow, I got my whole to-do list done. This is a win versus like,
Hmm.
oh my God, I should be doing more. And obviously the latter is so draining and there's
Yeah.
always going to be more to do. It doesn't matter where you're at in life. There's always going to be more that you can do if you really want to, but it's being
Hmm.
able to check that behavior, like
Well,
that's something I'm
not defaulting, not defaulting to the negative, right? Like it's
exactly.
like, you see so many people now and it's like it's I challenge myself, and it seems so silly, but it's true because it's very easy, even once you've sort of started to get to know yourself again or you're self-regulating, to still default to that negative first because that's what our brains are conditioned to do, to protect. That's what we know. So for me, it's like, take a day and do everything should be a yes and, right? Yes and instead of no but. Because as soon as you start to do that, it's like you finish your whole day. You're like, yes, and it's okay. Not no, but I need to do more. I still have
Mhm,
time. Right. And so it's
mhm.
also like challenging yourself in those other moments that maybe don't feel as obvious to continue that self, knowledge, getting to know yourself, challenging yourself to be in that positive mindset first before defaulting to that behavior. Right.
Well, and that's one thing I try to encourage my clients to do, and even myself. It's like we're so used to making the goal something about business. You mean
Hmm.
and that's okay with us. We're comfortable with targets or developing a project and like we're so comfortable, but we struggle with making ourself the project, right? Like
Hmm.
instead of like how do I add more to do this to this to-do list? It's like, okay, can you just be today? Can you
Right.
just be and go through the motions and enjoy the day without having to add more pressure to your plate? Like, can that be the challenge for you? You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Hmm.
Because when you make yourself the project, everything else falls into place anyways, but we're so used to making it about something else or someone else. They need
Hmm.
to fix this, they need to do this versus like, okay, but how do I redirect that energy into me? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. When it's uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable for most people to default to themselves first because we're conditioned to think that that means you're selfish or that you're deciding something for
Or
yourself
you're
versus
lazy,
doing, or you're lazy.
lazy,
Yes,
guilty,
that's a nice
whatever.
one too. I remember,
Mhm.
I think I said this in the first one. Like I remember I was always labeled as a lazy student, right? Because I could get stuff done and I didn't have to study or I didn't have to do more. I was still doing well without doing anything additional. And there was no motivation for me to do more. Right. And so it's like, but the no F's given part of me back then who didn't care, I don't know where she went because she disappeared somewhere between, then and now. But now I go, that's the energy we should be taking in. Who will benefit and what will benefit if I do more? If I've
Mhm.
done enough,
Mhm.
what's the positive outcome? And if it's not an obvious one that makes sense that you feel is driving you at your core, then there's probably no reason to push yourself harder than you need to, right?
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally. But it's
it's
programming.
wild.
I
It's
know.
wild. Well, now we know that, but still, I mean, it's still at this point, I think, I don't know. I mean, somewhere between, like you said, what becomes, what a default, it wasn't your default always, right? And I think it's that sort of constant reminder of, checking in with, well, I never used to be that way. And what was the catalyst for that? Or why did that change or something? And even just those moments of self-reflection as you're going through something like this and going, well, yeah, but that changed everything. But now looking back on it, it doesn't carry the weight that in your mind it might have carried at the time when it changed behaviors. And so it's just pausing to have those moments when those things feel so heavy that you're going to change a behavior, right?
Yeah, and and again, sometimes you like this is what Thomas does so great for me is like when he says these things, I'm like, "Oh yeah, like other people do this. Like other people exist
Hmm.
this way." Like it's
Hmm.
like I'm like it's almost like, "Oh, am I the weird one?" Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That like feels like I need to fill my day with more or feel whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that was like a very normal response for you." Yeah, and he's done his own work as well too, but it's like, wow, people like I'm making this a problem for me essentially. You know
Mm,
what I mean? Like I'm making the issue for myself right now. It's not
mm.
actually a problem in the external world and no one else is actually concerned about this except me. So it's like so then
Sure.
why don't I just like get rid of that? Or like why don't I just like let it be and not create things to be more difficult for myself, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the crappy part is that we just do, but also you do less of it now, right? Maybe.
There you
So
go.
yeah, it's like do less. But I was thinking about this when we were just talking, and I'm thinking I don't know what my answer would be, by the way. So I'm probably putting you on the spot, but whether you're at your workplace and you think of it from the concept of being an employee and your manager is there, or whether you're at home and you're checking in with your family relationships or even just friends, like where what's an effective way to be able to a deliver the message, but also receive a message that's better than just so how are you doing, right? Because I feel like when we talk to people and we say, like, if Thomas is talking to you and he's saying, you don't have to do that, if in those moments you were like, he's like, how are you, you'd be like, I'm fine, why? But like inside you're probably actually having these bubbling issues that you are just trying to pacify on your own. So from a tips and tricks or tools perspective, have you seen anything that helps when you're actually trying to have those normal engagement moments with people who are probably struggling in those moments? Or what would you want to hear as somebody who's spiraling in a moment?
Okay, so first part is almost like if I heard someone say they're fine, how would I support them to almost like open up? Is that kind of the first part of that
Yeah, but
question?
like, or what would you say so that you're not getting the default response of I'm fine or everything's fine? Because I feel like it's the same question that you ask, how are you? And everybody says, I'm fine. How are you? I'm busy. Well, it's literally the most lied answer to any question that anybody ever
Mhm,
asks, right? We know that. We know that that's true. So it's like,
mhm,
so when you're on the delivering side of asking somebody, what's really
mhm,
going on or are they okay? Or you're on the receiving side of knowing you need something.
mhm.
What would you want to hear?
Well, so as far as asking the question, both answers are both parts of are kind of canned. How are you is also
Hmm.
very canned, right? It's so
Hmm.
default, right? Because you also
Hmm.
hear people say like, you don't actually care about how I am. Do you mean?
Hmm.
One thing that I've been doing lately, because I try to interact with my audience a lot, is like if
Hmm.
I'm sending messages to people, I will give them an option, and I'll say, "So how's the month going? Is it chaotic or is it peaceful? Where are we at?"
Hmm.
And then it kind of opens up a spectrum, or at least it breaks the pattern of just saying, "Oh, it's good." It's like, "Oh, well, the first part of the month was kind of chaotic. Now it's a
Hmm.
little bit more peaceful." And then it at least opens up the dialogue for something not
Hmm.
generic and not canned, right? So if
Hmm.
you're talking to someone in the moment and it's about the day and I'm coming up to have coffee with you, Cheryl, and we're sitting down, and I'm like, okay, so was today really busy or is it feeling good? Like it can be
Hmm.
something as simple as that. And then it makes you think for a second. It's like, well, actually, like this afternoon sucked out, the meetings didn't go well or whatever the case is. So like
Hmm.
I would just encourage if you're wanting deeper answers out of someone or if you want to open up, like also just pattern interrupt your question,
Right.
right? Like
Right.
and you can pick one that you go to that can be your canned one, right? Mine
Hmm.
is it peaceful and in flow or is it chaotic and stressful and but
Hmm.
that's one way to kind of open it up. And then on the other side of things, if I was the person who gave the canned response, um I think what it takes in that moment is, and this is sometimes what takes work, and it goes back to the self-trust thing, is like you have to want to be honest,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Like
Hmm.
I can sit here and tell you, you should let it out. You should tell me your truth. You should tell me where you're at. But if that frightens you, it doesn't matter
Mm,
what kind of tip or trick I give you, you're not going to give the genuine thing, because there's a very real fear about being vulnerable. There's a very real fear for talking corporate about being
mm,
weak or appearing like you can't handle the
mhm,
job. There's a very real fear in relationships where it's like, if I let them know right now that I'm actually not happy, it's going to spiral into something else, right? But
mhm,
that's where it comes back to the work that we've been talking about, of reconnecting with yourself, to know that your truth is more important than anything. Like,
mhm,
you, like, people, there is tons of research out there that if you suppress your truth, if you suppress your emotions, you are more prone to developing an autoimmune disease, right? Like,
mm,
there's tons of research out there about it. And so I guess, as to the audience, I would propose is, if you find yourself giving canned answers all the time, knowing that you don't feel, Jeff, that's not your genuine truth, it's time to ask some deeper questions, and it's time to actually look about sorting that out. Because,
mhm,
like, again, for me, for years, I was so scared to tell my truth. I was so
mhm,
scared to let people know how I was feeling, because I didn't know how to make sense of it myself.
mhm.
Right? But that
Yeah.
led to burnout, that led to broken relationships, that led to a lot of turmoil that I had to dig myself out of.
What do you think is the most misrepresented thing there now, though? Like that's out there? Because you think about the term burnout, and you just said like you had to go through a whole exercise to even understand it. The word, I think, has grown legs that maybe are not as making it as meaningful as it really is. Maybe the term is because it's like ADHD. It's like suddenly it becomes trendy because it's just a niche. But the reality is burnout is a real thing. Um, but what would you say then is out there that's like creating a culture of misinformation about what burnout really is, or even how people have to address it to fix it? Because you see so many different things out there, and knowing where I am and what I've seen and what I've experienced with you, my gut goes, it doesn't need to be that fucking complicated, right? Like
Mhm.
it's just this massive overcomplication of what it is. And but anyways, I would love to know what you see.
Oh, so you know what's hilarious is, I was actually going to do a piece of content about this. Is so, as I just mentioned, when I have like new followers, I do my best to reach out to everyone, because I want to know
Sure.
why people are there, what kind of value I can give you, what are you dealing with, and so I
Mm,
send out a pretty basic initial question to everybody, like, hey, why are you here? Is it stress management? Is it burnout? Are you just, you like my dog? Like, I just send out this basic question, and
yeah.
I sent it to this one girl who started follow. She'd liked multiple of my posts. She was following me. And so I sent her this question. And her response was, burnout isn't a real thing. She's like, it's just an excuse for people who don't know how to handle it. They need to learn how to push through. You're part of the problem.
Mm,
And she's like, you're part of the problem. And I don't know why I'm following you. Bye. And then she blocked me.
wow.
Yes. Yes. Very interesting. Right.
Didn't have that
And
one on your bingo card, I'm sure.
yes. But I was actually going to make a piece of content, and I will, because that right there is the issue. And I don't
Hmm.
want to say she's the problem. That's not the angle I'm
Of
coming from.
course.
But this right here is the whole package of burnout and the misinformation, and why people either A, are in denial about why they have it, don't realize they have it, have a negative connotation with it because they do think it's people making excuses or not.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like, it's so, like, you're right, there's so many other layers to it. We're at the root of burnout, is it's just saying that there's some disconnection within yourself.
mhm.
That's it. And so what does that mean? It means you can't be balanced within your own body, which unfortunately she exemplified in that moment. I asked her one
Sure.
multiple choice question and she went off and then had to block me. That
Hmm.
right there shows me that you've lost connection with yourself, where someone can't ask you a question without you getting triggered by something. And do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so my goal with using burnout, even though it's kind of a buzzword, is just to educate people on the journey of coming back to themselves. It
Right.
I will tell people all the time, it has nothing to do with the job. It doesn't matter how much you had to get done you had to get done today. Doesn't it those things can add layers on top of it.
Hmm.
But if you're not right within yourself, if you're not connected to who you are and what's important to you and what restores you and what refuels you, and you don't know how to have a healthy relationship with yourself, you could have one thing, you could have 50 things, you will still be burnt out.
Hmm.
Right. And
Yeah,
that's what I want people to understand. And burnout is not a bad thing. It's actually like, I would say probably for you too, burnout was the best thing that ever happened to me because it
totally.
changed my life for the better
Hmm.
because I chose to do something about it.
It's a choice. And it's okay to admit that you don't know how to solve it, right? Like if you're in that space, acknowledgement of it is half the problem, although most people probably don't even understand how to acknowledge it. But the other half of the battle is saying, I'm used to being the problem solver. I'm used to being able to fix everything or come up with solutions, and I can't. I can't. So I need help. Right. And that's like that very first humbling moment of saying, like, I don't know what to do. So I need to reach out and have that vulnerability. Right. And I think that that's huge because a lot of people, that's a fear, a deep rooted fear to ask for help that we've been conditioned to think it can be negative or weak. Right. When it's really not. It was like you said, asking for help was the best thing I ever did. I don't know where I would be if I didn't have, right? So it's not, it's okay to do that, and I think it's okay to talk about it so that people don't, like, because there's so many people who go, oh, I thought it was just me. Oh, I didn't know, I thought it was just me. Or, oh my gosh, thank you for doing that because I was so scared to say it, but now I feel like people are talking, right? It's such a small act that can change somebody's day, just knowing that it's not a weakness to ask for help, and to know that whatever it is that's going on, somebody out there is going to be able to help if you're vulnerable enough to ask for it, right?
Well, yeah, and and the other side of it is I have talked to leaders, guys who own big companies, guys who are running big companies, and
Hmm.
they look at burnout as a weakness.
Yeah.
Like they will talk about it in that regard, like that it's like
Sophie.
they run their entire culture and organization on fear, and they're like, Burnout isn't a real thing. Burnout is for people who aren't doing what they love." Like that's another thing that I don't
Mm.
like to get into, but
Hmm.
like but then you can see it in their organization. The organization is dysregulated. They have high turnover. People don't trust them, right?
Hmm.
The nature of the deals, the nature of the clients are coming in dysregulated. Like you could just see it all over. But
Hmm.
they don't know any different. That's the only way they know how to build the business. But then in turn themselves, you can see that they're dysregulated as well.
Right. Yeah, 100%. It's wild. I don't know that I get it, but I feel like again, 10-month old me, of last 10 months old me, it would be rolling her eyes being like, "Really, you two? You just drinking the Kool-Aid." But no, but it's true. You see it all the time, and it's unfortunate because um you sometimes don't know that that's the company culture, that's the corporate culture until it's too late, right? You're in there and
Mhm.
then you don't have an option to get out, or you feel like you said stuck, or something comes up. But don't you wish that everyone could interview their CEO before they actually walked through the door of an organization?
I think employment would be a lot different,
I would
right?
say
Like
so. I would say so.
yeah, yeah. But then the other side of it too is like, like oh I wow, I just completely lost my train of thought. What was this?
Oh, well, we were
What
talking about the
did you say
C.
before?
No,
Wait,
the
we were talking about
CEO, the corporate culture.
corporate culture. Oh, it was there. It's gone. It's gone. It's okay. It
It's
wasn't meant to
okay.
be said. That's
It wasn't meant. See, sometimes it's just, it was, if it's important, it'll come back to you, right?
this is raw and real, people. We don't pretend here. I'm not gonna pretend. I lost the thought.
No, it's perfect. This is actually what it really means, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's wild to see. I remember what I was gonna say.
Mm.
People are so scared, I think, to acknowledge burnout though too, because they look at it as like a bad thing.
Hmm.
Like they're like that it's gonna poke a hole in the organization or poke a hole in themselves. And I'm like, no, it's actually just an opportunity for you to become better. That's all burnout actually is. Like we should stop shifting the narrative onto like something's like bad or you have to slow down, or
Mm,
like that might be part of the medicine. Yes, when I sit down with people, like, I might need you to a little bit, but it's not about you losing your edge or losing your ambitions. It's just about you doing it from a very intentional and whole space. If you still
hmm.
want to go after, go, but don't do it from a place that's sacrificing you in the process. Do it from a place that's uplifting you and bringing you along, right? And
That's
that's
just
part
it.
of the reason I think burnout gets a bad stigma, is people think that if you're burnt out, then all productivity has to stop and everything has to slow down and you have to work less. Like, maybe, but no, you don't have to do that. I've seen plenty of cases where people have just as much grit, just as much
Totally.
gusto, just as much ambition after the fact, but they're doing it from like an actual whole place.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's like you can make all of those changes, which is lovely, but also if the outcome is simply just you not crying at something so small that it doesn't need to be cried over, or like it brings in such an, like, that's a win. It's a win. It doesn't mean that everything has to change and your whole life has to be different. Sometimes it does, like you said. I mean, I'm so grateful for the opportunities that have been afforded to me as a result of some of this, but I also know that that's not always the way that it is. I'm thankful to, yeah, not cry because the pen didn't run out and it was the third pen I picked up that didn't work. And why is this happening? And, you have those little moments where you're, melting down because of something that, is so simple. But that's like when you've hit that threshold, right?
How has it been for you the last little while? Because you have had maybe some redirections and some new things you're starting, and like,
Yeah.
what's it been like as far as like, I guess now that, again, that you're kind of on this bigger arc now, or how many months, into this new
Mm,
journey for you, like, not everything has gone exactly as like you thought it was going
totally.
to. And we've
Hmm.
had some redirection from the universe in the best way, but like,
Hmm.
how has this process helped you navigate that?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. I'll maybe just elaborate a little bit, but when we were going through this process together, and where I started, and maybe I should say it was a humbling moment when we finished our program together, and you sort of had read out to me what my goals and focuses were from the very first session, because it was insane to me to see how even during the process I could pinpoint the moments where I lost that sense of self. So I knew enough at the beginning to know what I wanted my outcome to be. But as we continued to work together on the journey, there were elements that, at the time would have felt like the right thing. And I still no regrets because at the moment it was there. But it doesn't always play out the way that you need to. So you're going in, you're making these intentional decisions with what you're going to do next, with what your career is and where you want to be. And then there's this like humbling moment when you get there and you're like, oh shit, wait, this isn't working. And now you're like, okay, hold on. So the true test for you as a human is, and somebody who's going through this, is to not shame, embarrass, blame, look for focus. Why is this? Understanding the why doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. For whatever reason, it doesn't feel good anymore. Right? Doesn't matter if it's for them, for me, anybody, it doesn't matter. It doesn't feel good. So being able to trust that, okay, that's not feeling good. This is going to come to an end. And I'm going to be okay with that. And then not to, blame. But then the most important part was to be able to say, there's a gift in that, right? Like having in the moment, it feels uncomfortable when things don't go to plan. But then all of a sudden I go, I needed all of this to happen because it brought me to a place where I go, okay, I have these ideas. I've never acted on them in terms of like my thoughts around, what I think would matter for people, or being able to help others, or starting a business or a product, a service. It doesn't really matter what it is, but it's like all of those things that were itching in the back of my mind that I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Why? Because it was uncomfortable, right? And so now suddenly it's like, if I wouldn't have had those experiences, I wouldn't have said, you know what? This is what I want to do. This is the stuff that I'm doing that's making me happy. So trying to get out there and to build a brand and sort of to understand the concepts behind some of these unspoken, unspoken labor and unspoken tasks that, contribute to this. I will never pretend to be anybody that can solve the burnout. You've got that niche, you've got a hold on it, and I'm like, I don't even want to go there. But what I do want people to understand is the impact that these unseen tasks have on everybody's day, because when we aren't seeing it, it's out of sight, out of mind, but it actually is incredibly weighty on people's mental health. And we, as leaders in organizations and as humans in our lives, need to do better at understanding that those things can happen. They exist, and making sure that we're not contributing to those factors or that weight for the people that are around us, right? So if you if things just magically happen for you, like whether you're in an office and suddenly there's cake in the office because it's somebody's birthday, well, then congratulations, you're getting a bit of a free ride because somebody else is doing that, right? Like somebody's taking the time and effort and energy to think about those things. And I probably guarantee you that they aren't getting paid to do it, right? They're owning it. So it's the idea of coming into an organization and sitting in an uncomfortable meeting and watching two people who have an uncomfortable interaction. Well, when people walk away from that, one person might walk away and never think about it again. Well, another person might walk away, be stewing over it at their desk, while two other people in the meeting might be going over to comfort that person and find out if they're okay, if there's anything that they can do to help. All of that ownership and responsibility for the emotional labor and the things that come along with it is real. We don't talk about it enough. And when we think about how it's contributed, I did everything to work on healing my burnout. Again, it's not about just a career. It's also about, wait, there's still moments where you're still tired. Why is that? Oh, because I'm doing a whole bunch of other things that we've just, again, normalized that that's just what we're supposed to do, right? So I think the idea of being able to put some effort and energy and focus into cultivating awareness around some of these things. What's important for me is, like I call it, as a joke, I call it the emotional labor club, because I feel like, welcome to the club, kids. Membership is free, but the reality is membership, to this specific club, means accountability. Awareness means you've got to do something about it. We no longer have to sit in silence for some of these things. But as I continue to do that, it's also about, that stuff is making me happy. It's stuff that I find fun. It's stuff that I find engaging. Building some kind of a brand off of it is one thing, but also being able to do my own thing, being able to, do my consulting, do the work that I know I love to contribute to and make a difference in when it comes to the public health organizations and that kind of stuff. I still get to do all of that. I'm not missing anything. Whereas 3 months ago or 4 months ago, I would have said to you, I needed to be a people leader in order for me to feel like I was offering value, or I don't feel that way anymore, because I feel like I've been pushed into this space where if it's there and it happens, that's amazing. I love to do it. But if I'm not going to do that in a formal capacity, then let me find ways to do that informally and still get the same value for myself, but also for helping individuals and like the greater collective, right?
Yeah, and it's amazing just like kind of touching back to you, because it's one of my favorite things to do with people is when they're done the program to go back to their week one goals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're right, like you had a week one goal of like starting something for yourself, and like this is what it was, and then as long as we went through the path, there was other opportunities that come up and you're like, "Hey, let's go with it." But then it's all led you back to this same point of
Hmm.
being like doing something for yourself and creating something for you. And it's just amazing how that journey can come back full fold. Do you know what I mean? But like you said,
Hmm.
you have to go through things to like bring you back to that realization sometime. And every experience has a purpose. It's just what you choose to make of it, you know?
Absolutely. And I had an old colleague and had become a friend, and he used to always say to me, and it was at the core of my burnout, and he had this like unwavering positivity always. And I remember I would just look at him sometimes and be like, really? Not today. Like, this is not where I want to be. But he always said, there's a gift in everything. You just have to look for it. And it might not feel like it at the time, but looking back, you'll always find it. And those words have never left my brain. And so whenever I'm having those moments where things feel remarkably difficult, because even with burnout, healing burnout, you're still going to have those days where things are, you might not feel that way for as long in those moments, but being able to pause and look back and say, okay, it doesn't feel it right now, but there is a gift. I'm going to get there, right? I'm going to get there and I'm going to find it. And honestly, I always have. Nobody would have said, nobody wants to get burnout. It's been an absolute gift. It's been an absolute life-changing gift, right? And so being able um to look at that and to reflect, and when I was listening to what you had said to me about what I had put first, because I don't keep a record of that, right? Like we talked
Mhm.
about it, but you were the one who was kind of recording everything. So I wasn't looking back on it in the same way. Um, it it reminded me that even though I had been disconnected with myself, and that's what got me there in the first place, being able to be vulnerable enough to be honest in that moment, because that is what I wanted. It's what I wanted and it's what I needed. I was too scared to say it out loud in the moment because it didn't feel comfortable.
Mm.
So being able to watch that journey happen and knowing that I trusted myself enough in that moment to know what I wanted, but I was too scared to say it out loud to somebody else or to do anything or to act on it because of who knows what reasons. Um,
Mhm.
Stark reminder that even though you're disconnected from yourself, you're never really disconnected from yourself, right?
Mm. Yeah. It's so true. It's like, the heart knows, right? It's almost like you could say it that way. Like your
Hmm.
heart knows what you really want. It's just like, is your mind and all these other things going to be willing to listen or willing to catch up? You know what I mean? And like, and maybe
Hmm.
that's like a question we can end on. Maybe we can both answer it, but I'll
Sure.
pose it to you first. Like, so now looking back at everything, like, what is one thing now that you're willing to say out loud or admit
Mm,
about what you want in life or what's really
mm,
important to you, or just like what, like yeah, what you want or what's really important to you? What are you willing to say out loud and acknowledge
mm.
now that maybe 10 months ago you wouldn't have been able to?
I'm going to say it, and it doesn't necessarily correlate to something that I want or something that I'm striving for. But I'll answer in two things. The first is I truly, truly, truly believe that you have to change your perspective when you're speaking about yourself and your achievements. And when I say that,
Mhm.
I mean like if we're talking about what my goals are, what I want to do, I'm not going to talk about it as I want to do it. I'm talking about it as I'm doing it because I think that you're naturally inclined to look for ways why things won't work. So being able to change my own language to be able to speak in a first person space, even when those things maybe haven't been there yet, right? So when I'm talking about what those goals are, but the one thing that and you're gonna laugh because I'm sure that you know where I'm gonna go, maybe because we've had so many different discussions about this, is um, I am no longer ashamed or embarrassed to say that I'm proud of myself. And when we started
Mm,
this journey, and it doesn't even matter what I'm proud of, it's just being able to look at myself and say, yeah, I'm proud that I did that. Or when somebody is saying something about me or something, instead of deflecting it and making it like, oh no, it's just, it's nothing, whatever, I've made it a point to say, I'm very proud of that, or I'm very proud of myself for that, because I am. And it's something that I didn't say to myself for God knows how many years. And so when we started, it made me uncomfortable and I wanted to be like, "Bleh, I don't like that." And now when I say it about something or I say it about myself, it's almost going to make me like it brings me emotions, which is weird for me, but it's because I do feel that way. I do
mm,
feel that way. And I'm so thankful that I am at a point now where I can love myself
mm.
in a way that is authentic to me and what I need, right?
That's beautiful. I love that. And yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen that transformation in you and just like, yeah, going from like the ick, because I remember, yeah, you used to say like you should be so proud of yourself, and it'd be like you're dodging a frisbee.
Yeah.
You'd be like, ah, no, you know what you mean? And so
Yeah. Yeah.
to go from that to this, like just yeah,
Mhm. Mhm, and I mean
beautiful.
it. That's the difference. I'm not faking it. I'm not saying it because I know I should. I'm not saying it because people say do it. And maybe that works, right? Maybe you say it until you get comfortable, but the truth is that I am proud. I am proud of the life that I've built. I'm proud of the relationships that I have. I'm proud of the people around me. I'm proud of myself for what I've done, and I'm proud of myself for failing at things I failed at, and I'm proud of myself for recovering from the things that I failed at. So I think that is probably the best gift, that's come out of all of this getting in touch with myself and healing from burnout is like, it's okay to love myself and it's okay to feel like I'm proud of myself, right?
Yeah, and like my answer would be very similar to yours
Mm.
as far as like, um, to me, the biggest thing now is like I really just want the validation of myself
Yeah.
more than anyone else. Like like when I can do things and I just genuinely like, no, we're good with this. Like, and I don't need to consult anybody else. I don't need
Hmm.
anybody else's feedback. Like to me, just that relationship with myself is so much better. And for that, I have way more inner peace. I'm way more self-trusting. Like again, I love and
Yeah.
accept myself more. But you know, I'd be interested to see if you agree with this, but I think the way that comes to fruition is by you doing things outside of the box and
Mm.
against the grain. And I think the only reason, not the only, but a main reason I can say that about myself now and I have the relationship with myself the way it is now is because I chose to do what everyone else told me not to do. I
Hmm.
chose to leave my other career. I chose to take a year off and travel. I chose to do things against the grain. And because I did that and it worked for me,
Mm.
now I know I'm the only person I need the love and validation from.
100%. Yeah, I would agree with that fully. I think it's beautiful and it's factual. It's also about saying stop ignoring what you want, right? Like if the default is comfort, but it's not what you really want, why are we not making those choices, right? So even if you don't know what those are, choosing to go into that space that makes you feel the most unsettled has been the absolute biggest game changers for me, at least during this program, right? So,
Well, and sometimes you don't even know what you want, right? Like
right.
I would say when I left my last career, I didn't even know what I wanted, but what I did know was that wasn't working anymore, right?
Yes.
And so sometimes that's it. Sometimes you don't know, you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, but you can tell when something's not working. And so to
Hmm.
have the courage to be like, "Okay, I'm going to just try something different because I know this isn't working." There's just so much beauty on
Hmm.
the other side of that, and I promise you I've just seen it so many times now with myself, with you, with so many of my
Hmm.
clients. When you take that step and you go out on a limb, the universe opens up in so many different
Many.
ways that you didn't even know were possible. Like that
Hmm.
you can't even fathom right now. But it
Yeah.
takes you trusting yourself that you can take that step and that the right things will fall into place. Maybe not exactly as you planned, but they'll
Sure.
find their way to you.
Always, always. And the amount of times that was validated for me during this process was unbelievable. It's crazy how as soon as you start to just go and just do, it will always work out, to your point. Maybe not how you thought, but that's okay. That's okay too. But it will always work out. I think I feel like I'm the proof that that can work in this sense of it because I came in, you at least knew you were burnt out in some capacity. I came in really trying to, I knew I needed something, didn't know what it was, didn't know how it was, but coming out on the other side of this and everything that you've shared and everything that you told me at the beginning, you were like, I promise, I promise, I promise. And I'm going, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. And here we are sitting here and I'm going like, I I don't know I don't know where I would be right now if it wasn't for this, right? So,
Well, thank you so much for trusting me. Thank you for like pouring yourself into it the way you did, because it's been a blessing and the greatest gift to watch it play out the way, I when I designed all this, I had an idea of how it would play out, and just watching it play out in my clients is the most fulfilling thing. So, yeah, thank you
Oh,
so much.
I
And
can
thank you
imagine.
for today.
No, thank you for having me. I was like, I love the idea, and when we talked about doing this, it was great. And but I feel like coming out onto the other side of it, it feels like, yeah, just not only are we matching, but also, yeah, it's like I feel like I've got such a wonderful human in you that just having these conversations and being able to share anything with people who might have any interest in it is absolutely amazing. So thank you. I'm honored to have been a guest, not once but twice, and I'm happy to chat about anything at any time. But thank you so much for allowing me to do it.